It was a very busy weekend of racing. There's so much stuff to talk about. An exciting IndyCar finish, an incredible string of wins for one Kyle Larson, and SRX taking on the dirt tracks. Let's get into it. And welcome back to the channel. Want to apologize right off the bat because I've had a bit of a weird upload schedule recently. Again, if you don't know, I'm moving house. I'm actually in the house I'm eventually going to be totally moved into right now. I've kind of been going back and forth between here and New Jersey. You might be able to tell things like the carpet's in deplorable shape. That's part of the reason why I've been so busy, is it's really tough to nail down things like contractors right now. In fact, just recently, I discovered that one of the rooms, the ceiling was leaking. So there's a lot of things that I'm kind of handling behind the scenes. So I apologize that some of the things you thought, hey, maybe you should be making a video about this, David. Yes, I agree with you. But there are other kind of life things getting in the way. Once I get all this taken care of, it's going to be full steam ahead, and I'm really excited. But I want to take this opportunity to catch up on a bunch of things that I should have been talking about over the last couple of days. And the first thing I want to talk about is, and yes, I am going to take a victory lap here. Guess what, everybody? The Indy 500 wasn't a super spreader! Who could have predicted that? Who could have predicted that? Oh yeah, it was me. But we do have a quote from the IndyStar health and science reporter, Sherry Rudavosky. I think I butchered that. I know I did. But anyway, this is what Shari had to say. She was actually reporting a quote that the health department director for Marion County said, which was that after the Indy 500, they identified about 19 people who tested positive for COVID and reported going to the race. We have not seen a surge or significant increase in cases as a result of the Indy 500. And then they decided to pat themselves on the back and say they think one of the critical factors was their percentage capacity. Very interesting. Now, for those of you keeping score at home, this means that of the people that was the claimed 137,000 strong crowd, there was 0.01386866131 of a percentage positivity rate for the entire 2 weeks that those 137,000 people attended the Indianapolis 500. Very, very interesting, to say the least. And, ultimately, it kind of shows that it's very disappointing to me that this was even a question going into the race. It's just really, this whole thing, I think we're going to look back on and say it was really quite dumb. Obviously, the people who did actually get COVID, those 19 people, we wish you a speedy recovery. But I think it's really important to note that this study or this data or this quote does not even pin these 19 folks who got COVID specifically on the fact that they went to the Indy 500. It could have happened any time in the 2 weeks since the Indy 500. So, I think that the writing was on the wall when the Super Bowl, before vaccines were readily available indoors or at least, the stadium itself was a confined space before you got into the outdoor part of it in Tampa Bay. And in the wintertime, when typically diseases spread a lot quicker, when it was like, I think they traced like 20 cases or something like that in those kind of extenuating circumstances. The fact that this went this far where we weren't sure, and even Roger Penske confirmed later that, look, we didn't even know if we were going to have fans a month away from the Indy 500. That was ridiculous. I think it reflects very poorly on the leadership in Marion County and the people who are employed to supposedly know the facts and know what they're supposed to be doing and know what is safe and what isn't safe. Pretty bad as far as I'm concerned. And ultimately that quote where they say, well, it was our percentage capacity. Yeah, but you also told people they couldn't be in the infield. If social distancing really was a big thing, that was not, I think that's not anything controversial. It really wasn't social distancing in the grandstands. They could have done a better job of that, but ultimately it didn't matter anyway. So can't wait for 100% capacity next year because as long as there's no real major changes between now and then, outside of things getting better, there's really no reason to even have a debate anymore on that. Road America IndyCar, continuing a string of incredible moments in IndyCar racing. Joseph Newgarden does a throwback to Al Unser Jr. in 1996 at Road America, blows up on the final lap, gearbox problems, handing the win to Alex Palou, his second win of the season. That extends the Penske winless streak for 2021 and gives Palou the points lead back from Pato O'Ward. And so, this is what I really wanted to talk about coming out of Road America. And that is that I think I certainly going into the season looked at this as a changing of the guard season. I think a lot of people have said that. I don't think it's super... it's a super different opinion to say that the IndyCar guard is changing. But I am a bit surprised and pleasantly surprised that Alex Palou has emerged as one of the guys who is pretty clearly very much in the hunt for this championship, but has also really proven or kind of exceeded my expectations for him at Chip Ganassi Racing. I thought he was going to do probably the equivalent of Felix Rosenqvist. I thought he was going to win a race or two, which he has done, but I didn't think he was going to be this consistently good. I mean, he was only a couple of laps away from winning the Indianapolis 500. Now, Pato O'Ward isn't quite as much of a surprise. In fact, I thought it was going to be him and Colton Herta who were going to be the two really dueling for the championship this year with Scott Dixon mixed in. Well, as it's turned out, Alex Palou's kind of taken over that role that I thought Herta was going to have, and it looks like it's going to be a fantastic championship battle between O'Ward, Palou, and potentially Dixon, as long as Dixon can remain consistent and not have any kind of silly things like happen to him at the Indianapolis 500. But, of course, that's why we run the races. And I think, this is what IndyCar has needed. There's a lot of things that IndyCar has needed to happen. One of those things I just now realized kind of the last couple of weeks is that IndyCar racing needed a 4-time winner. Now the fact in the Indy 500 and the fact that Elio's not there at least this year is a little bit disappointing, but I think the strength of the Indianapolis 500 is going to parlay into strength for the rest of the series. The Road America TV ratings were in and they were fantastic for an NBCSN race, an IndyCar NBCSN race. I think there was 800,000 people who watched it, which is really quite good. That's almost a network TV rating if you're kind of keeping score that way. And I think what everyone's being exposed to now is what was happening in the late 90s. You saw the mid 90s where you saw guys like, hey, look, Al Unser Sr. right there. Al Unser Sr., AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti were kind of on the way out. You had some established guys like Michael Andretti or Al Unser Jr., but you also had the new guys coming in like Jacques Villeneuve and Robbie Gordon and Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore. And a lot of these guys you never really got to know as a casual racing fan or just even a racing fan in general because the split happened. Well, now you've got that same sort of thing happening. You've got these older established stars who are still there, the legends of the sport, the Tony Kanans, the Elio Castroneves, the Scott Dixon. But you also have these guys coming in who are establishing themselves as guys you're going to be able to watch every single week. Colton Herta, Rinus VeeKay, get well soon, by the way. Alex Palou, Pato O'Ward. These guys are going to be the future. These guys are going to be the ones that we're going to be talking about over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. And it's important that these guys establish themselves as stars, and that's exactly what they're doing this year. And I think in some ways you see the TV ratings reflecting that and the interest in the series reflecting that. There's fresh blood here. There's new drivers for people to get behind. There's new stories to tell and new stories to write. So I think that's quite a good thing for IndyCar going forward. There's a really solid base. And in fact, I've said this before, I think IndyCar's a lot more solid than a lot of people may think. And going forward, I'm interested to see what changes Roger Penske makes to strengthen that base over the next couple of years. But again, I think Palou and O'Ward, I think this is going to be a championship battle we're going to be talking about for years to come. I'll be interested to see who can pull it off at the end of the season. And boy, oh boy, has Chip found his replacement for Scott Dixon? We might be having him. Kyle Larson, what else can you say about him that hasn't already been said? He's won the last 3 points-paying NASCAR Cup Series races as well as the All-Star race. In fact, he hasn't been defeated in a Cup Series race that he's participated in since May 30th. And oh, by the way, he's winning everything from wing sprint cars to dirt late models in between. Kyle Larson is our generation's AJ Foyt. And I think we need to acknowledge this, accept this for what it is, because to me, we need to really embrace this, in my opinion, because this is something that we really have not seen for probably 30, 40, maybe even 50 years, where a driver has this. This is something that my friend Racing Nation TV has talked about to me quite a bit, this crossover ability. The true crossover ability where a driver can really race all week and win in different cars in every single race he runs in a week, and everything from the Cup level to World of Outlaws to just a random show on some local short track. And that's truly what Kyle Larson is. I mean, it's shocking because for so long we were told there will never be another AJ, there'll never be another Mario, you can never do this anymore. But here we are, and it's happening. And I think we need to acknowledge this because this is the second summer in a row where Kyle Larson is literally winning pretty much every race he's entered, and now he's doing it in the Cup Series. This is something special, and I think we need to appreciate this when it's happening because, you know, I think there's so many cynical people out there, and I understand the people who are cynical for the reasons outside of what happens in the race car, but the people who are cynical because they're just like, oh, well, Kyle Larson's got the best cars or something like that, or Hendrick's going to cheat in the cars up. No, because that also says that either you believe that the people who race on the dirt scene are worse than the Cup drivers. By the way, that's not true. The talent level is as high or as competitive on the short tracks as it is in the Cup Series, by the way, because there's a lower money barrier to enter. But the big thing is that, you know, Larson is somehow managing to have this this great talent level and this consistent talent level at everything he drives. And again, I just look at AJ Foyt and I say, this is it. You know, even Tony Stewart, this again was something that I was talking with my buddy Racing Nation TV about, and he mentioned to me that Tony Stewart for the longest time really struggled with wing sprint cars. I think he only has one World of Outlaws win. That's not what Kyle Larson's doing. Kyle Larson isn't struggling nearly as much in wing sprint cars as Tony Stewart did. And it's just, again, such different race cars, such different driving styles, winning all the time. This is crazy. And again, it's backed up from what he was able to do last year. It's really special. And boy, oh boy, if he keeps this up, I certainly hope, for NASCAR's sake, that he wins the championship at Phoenix, because if for some reason he gets taken out of it in the playoffs for some stupid, ridiculous reason, that's again going to be something that really reflects badly on the system, because at the very least, this is a guy who, at this form, should be racing for the championship in Phoenix, absolutely no question. But again, we're going to have to wait and see how that ends up turning out. And finally, SRX on the dirt. Pretty good race. I thought the changes that they made were in the positive direction. Shortening the heat races, in fact, shortening the gaps between the heat races, that was very positive. From a TV perspective, that helped. And speaking of TV, the fact that they were able to get the colors coordinated on the ticker helped a lot. I'm not sure about their caution clock. We called it last week the fun flag. Apparently there is actually a rule in the rule book for SRX which states that if there's a certain amount of green flag laps run, the caution will come out. Do we need that? Do we really need that? I would say probably no, especially at a track. I mean, Knoxville, I thought there was really some great racing. Side by side, and as good of racing as you can with big heavy stock cars on a dirt track too. That was the other thing that I kind of was disappointed to see, was that they really couldn't run the cushion. Guys like Scott Bloomquist would get up there, Marco Andretti, and try to run it, and it wouldn't work. They'd get out in the dirt and they just kind of almost spin out, or they would spin out. So I don't know what you would do to change that. I'm not nearly technologically literate enough on dirt racing, especially, to be able to tell you what would need to change for them to run the outer high line as well as that inside lane that most people are running. Danica, I think a lot of comments roasted me for how Danica performed in the booth the first race. I liked it. I thought she was okay. I didn't think it was quite as good this time, to say the least. I do think you need someone with a little bit more knowledgeable, and she's a knowledgeable person. I don't want to say that she's not. But I think, especially if you're going to go to dirt, you should get someone who has dirt racing experience in there to explain some of the things, rather than having, because you could tell Danica knew what she was talking about when she was talking about pavement racing. Obviously, pavement oval racing, she's done a lot of that in a lot of different cars. But when you get on the dirt, she was like, yeah, I did the Prelude of the Dream one time, and I tried to push it from my memory because I did so bad. Probably not the best person to be doing color commentary on a race that needs a certain level of expertise to explain to a national TV audience. However, again, SRX did great TV numbers. I think they got 1.3 million people watching. And again, I think people had weird expectations of how big the SRX TV audience would be. This is a fantastic rating for them. And the last couple of things I want to say is the fact that Ernie Francis Jr. is definitely coming out as a star in this series. The fact that they gave him the full season, I wish they'd give Doug Coby the full season. But it'll be interesting to see if he gets any mainstream racing opportunities out of this. I hope Roger Penske is trying to get him in a lights car. Come on, Roger. But also, Helio Castroneves, the first Indy 500 winner that's raced on dirt in a championship race, I think since 1977. Again, we'll have to kind of look at that. By the way, reigning Indy 500 champion. I want to point that out. But Helio did a great job on the dirt, believe it or not. It's almost like racing talent kind of transcends the surface level, kind of like what I was talking about with Kyle Larson. Hey, maybe someday Helio Castroneves will win a World of Outlaws race. I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon. But anyway, that's my big catch-up. I got a few more videos coming planned now that I kind of got a makeshift studio set up. Hopefully it'll make producing videos a little bit easier as I continue to try to get my house set up to finally actually move into. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. We'll see you in the next video.